to the bottom left-hand corner of the map, where we are going to begin the Asian regionals of the EPT Summer Masters. This, in the bottom left corner from Invictus Gaming, is XY.
And that obviously means that in the top right side of Royal Blood, we're gonna take a look at the beautiful blue main base of our UK Protoss, but he holds a Pakistani passport, and because of that, he is allowed to play in this region. This is TeebuL.
And TeebuL is really rising the ranks over in the oceanic scene, right, with that Pakistani citizenship. And was really, you know, pushing top 2 sometimes into those finals, was definitely playing into top 4 a lot of the time in that region, so he was one of the very competitive players out of Oceania, and so he is one of the players we expect to make a push for playoffs, even in this new format, I feel.
It's very hard, man, because I feel like I'm going to sound like a broken record, but we're just going to have a lot of very competitive matches this season, with the regions obviously being fused in one, so it's a lot harder. Like, you don't just basically, as long as you are 5.5k MMR or higher, qualify for a certain region. No, the amount of slots per region are limited because they now all play in this big Asia region, so it's already going to be a bit more competitive. And on top of that, we just get to see a whole bunch of matchups that we rarely saw before. I didn't check on the league, mate, but when do TeebuL and XY ever play against each other? If you ask me, that must have happened at best 3 or 4 times throughout history, but it could very well be 0. So I don't really know what to expect. I don't even know who I favor here, Waddy. Like, generally, you can put a gun to my head, I wouldn't know who I favor here. Like, no idea, clueless.
Yeah, I don't know. I almost feel like maybe XY, because I feel like he has got the experience from trying all these years. They have never played each other, you're right. That's not something I'm surprised about, because they're 2 players I wouldn't necessarily expect to meet against each other. I think XY's style may be better for tournaments, because he's really quite fantastic at just being that crazier, kind of more crazy player. And I feel like that, especially at this sort of level, can have a big impact as well, and definitely some benefits.
Yep, but obviously going up against the Protoss that you're not familiar with is scary, and if we have a hard time sometimes catching too many games of TeebuL, because he's not someone who plays in every weekly or every Waddy TV qualifier out there, right? How can XY possibly like prepare solidly for this series? I think that's going to be very difficult for him as well. We have a bit of an interesting opening here. There's a random Zealot running to the other side of the map, and we're going to follow that up with some Adepts that are being shaded towards the bottom side now. Another Adept, and also a quick Twilight Council. But if I see Zealot, Adept, and Twilight, I'm actually thinking DTs earlier than Blink Stalkers, but we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah, obviously just no Stalkers at all, so DTs could make sense. Just a very aggressive opening, right? If you come across and put a lot of pressure on, and then you follow up immediately with DTs when your opponent's still perhaps a bit distracted. TeebuL also has the proxy on the bottom side, so there's Pylon about to be done here, and he's got the money to build whatever he would like, and it's going to be the Dark Shrine down in the corner of the map. Dark Shrine in a gateway to start us off, Roddy, so we are going to see that very aggressive opening.
Casted the finals of the weekly last night, Waddy, and one of the games this was a strategy that was being used. Maybe TeebuL took a page out of the D Mauer playbook. And right now, if you're XY and you see a Zealot, you see 2 Adepts, you're already probably a bit confused. You're like, what is this all about? But it's like, okay, we're just gonna go ahead and deal with it, not lose too many SCVs, and we will take it from there. But it is important that he starts thinking about the possibility of there being a Dark Shrine. Now, what is also important on the side of TeebuL is that he gets a couple Stalkers at home, right? Not just because that one Hellion has potential to maybe kill a couple probes, but if that Hellion drives into the main base and it sees just 1 Stalker or 1 Adept, at that point all the alarm bells go off. So at this point you kind of want to sell it convincingly for TeebuL, and you want to show as many Stalkers as you can afford.
Yep. If he can show any, he's got nothing in his base, so this Widowmine drop is going to have to be dealt with by just sacrificing workers. Right now he wants his warp in to go on the other side and get the DT started, but obviously you see the Twilight not upgrading as well. 3 probes initially, both of these Widowmines go away. 1 Stalker is going to obviously try and give chase. That's not going to do too much, and here come our initial couple of DTs. They're going to go to the front. Do we have scans? No, we just dropped the mule! Oh dear. Buddy. This does not seem good.
You mentioned that Twilight. You mentioned the Twilight. That's perfect. This could very well be game over immediately, guys. This could be it for the first game of the ESL Pro Tour this season, because we've got a DT in the main base. We've got a DT in the net zone. 8 probes have died on the other side of the map. 9 probes have died. That is a lot of workers. But we have 0 scans. We have no Raven. We don't even have an eBay finished. Like, TeebuL can always warp in one more DTs to make sure that he will always have one DT in the main base, one DT in the natural. Don't lose 2 DTs against 1 scan though, that would be a disaster.
Yeah, that definitely would have been a little bit of a disaster, just unnecessary. You've got this game under lockdown at the moment, and we will clean up the Widow Mine drop as well, so no more pressure from that. I mean, 12 probes, though, is a pretty big deal, and this Liberator still here is coming through to get a lot more done. So actually, we're continuing to deal some decent damage, and now Lib at least will now go down. Stalker's getting to deal with this, but man, the damage is really kind of wild.
I never expected XY to be the player here to deal more damage. That is just insane. Obviously, TeebuL did make a bit of a mistake, A, defensively, and B, he just didn't really keep up the DTs, right? One more DT, because you know that 1 scan will never take all that long. But if you then still have a DT in the main, you still have 1 DT in the natural, the Terran just cannot mine and cannot get that turret up. That was not supposed to happen. It almost feels that maybe we over-defended at home, but then again, with the amount of probes we lost, we can hardly call that over-defending. That is crazy, and that is absolutely not supposed to happen. When XY has no tech lab on the starport, no eBay, and no energy to scan, and 2 Dark Templars walk in. Wardy, this is supposed to be so much better for TeebuL than what it actually is.
I mean, when the meal dropped down, I thought it was going to be game over. It's a ton of SCVs that are meant to fall, or army, or whatever, but yeah, just so much happened on TeebuL's side of the map. Now he's going to add on a ton of gateways, because what he wants to get to is charge, and he wants to get as many Zealots as possible. That is his way to surviving in this game, just hoping that Zealots are going to be able to carry him through some of these fights. He's got the Prism as well, so he can harass, but it's going to be scary. If XY gets a proper amount of units, I guess he doesn't have Stim or anything yet, so that's a saving grace for TeebuL, but there are definitely pushes that can be extremely terrifying for TeebuL to deal with. I think charge is really his savior, though, at least.
Yeah, I like the fact that we went for quick charge. He's going up to 7 gateways. That almost gives me the idea that TeebuL wants to be aggressive before XY is going to be aggressive. Not necessarily something that I would recommend here, right? Because you're still the 3-base Protoss. And sure, it's going to take a long time before you get Storm or Colossus or nice upgrades on your Forge, but I would still say I like that Colossus. No, we had that RoboBay going down. He cancels it, drops the Templar Archives instead. So perhaps some nerves coming in here for TeebuL, as he seems to be a little bit indecisive, and XY is dropping in, not a CC at home.
Yep, just ready to go up toward 3 bases. Here comes our first Prism harassment into the main base. So you have a couple of these Zealots unloading and starting to deal some damage, try to get towards the tank, but it's only 2 Zealots. It's not that scary. We do pretty much just lift them back up into the Prism and say, no, that's enough for now. Back away from here and be done with it for the moment. And we'll just kind of let this move on to the next step, which... well, the Raven actually turned around as well, so it's not going to do much harassment. A very peaceful few moments, actually, considering how it all opened.
If this is just a sneak peek of all the things that we can expect in the upcoming 3 weeks, Wardy, I am loving it. Because 8 minutes ago, we looked at each other and said, I'm honestly not sure we favor here. 8 minutes in, I am still not sure. I feel like TeebuL could have won this game already. Instead, it was XY who dealt a whole lot of damage. But now TeebuL is still the one who's heading into a pretty sweet spot if we can just get a couple of High Templars out. And I gotta say, I love the way he's been keeping this War Prism safe so far. That is a sweet way of dealing with War Prism Arrest, though. Just keep the Raven at home. But he has to keep in mind, Waddy, that there is still a Dark Shrine, right? So not having the Raven with your army could be a bit annoying.
Yep, because now that DT player can come in on the other side, and of course with that DT play, you're going to be able to really just come through and have a pretty good time. Just kind of, forcing scans constantly, just taking away economy potential from your opponent. We actually go diving into this. This is obviously a bit of a weird position because of all of these Zealots fighting through the choke point, but the Immortals are here. Would love to see the Immortals trying to target the tanks a little bit more quickly, but we are going to get the full cleanup on this, and that is TeebuL winning this fight. Wow.
Yeah, that was quite a fight, mate. And we don't often talk about tanks actually being tanky, because that's just not one thing that they really are. But they did a pretty damn good job there in keeping the bio units safe. And I love to call on the Immortals there, because I could already see the Nightmare scenario where these Immortals were trying to kill the Marines that were being healed up by Medevacs, and then you're just going to lose your entire army. In the end, pretty good cleanup by TeebuL, because that was just not an easy area to engage that Terran army. And he's now going to rebuild the Cybercore, drop 2 forges. But we can't forget about the fact that Storm is on the map, and I haven't seen a Ghost Academy yet. And with the way that this game has played out, I feel like it's just always gonna take quite some time before XY is ever... Okay, he does have a Ghost Academy, but before he gets a whole bunch of Ghost out, as we also have Vikings on the production tab. He's gonna rebuild the Ghost Academy, but he already has one, and he cancels it. We're all over the place here in Game 1, mate.
Mate, there's just been units, all sorts of units all over everywhere, hasn't there? A bit wild. Obviously, you had the Robo Bay cancel into Temple Archives. That choice was made earlier. Looks as though TeebuL might be thinking about a bit of aggression himself. Zealot set up on the left side. We've got a few Zealots warped in bottom right. He's taken the wrong side of the gold-based Nexus as well, because why the heck not? It's that kind of game. If you're going to go up against the Madman XY, then why not be a bit of Madman yourself? I like it.
Yep, obviously this army does look good, right? Especially with all the Widow Mines. It's going to be hard for Zealots to get a whole lot done. But if we can land a couple of big storms before those girls make it to the front lines, there's a lot of potential. And a couple of Zealots are going to keep the girls busy. Those storms, Wardy, are absolutely fantastic. This is a really sweet attack by TeebuL where he's not overcommitting, right? He's transitioning into the second Robo in the Robo Bay. Sure, he threw away a couple Zealots, but that's what Zealots are made for. Mate, I'm very impressed by this attack. This was excellent by TeebuL.
Gets damage done, backs away, like you say, lost nothing too meaningful. I think he lost one of the High Templar, but yeah, I don't think you can complain about that at all. He's taken control of this map, and that allows him to be safe on that gold base he's establishing too. I think TeebuL has got to be absolutely in love with the position he's currently set up on.
Yep. However, he's far from done. We all know that. Obviously, especially when you're this Zealot heavy, it's very easy to take a horrible fight, and then it all comes down to the Disruptors. But I think XY has got pretty damn good micro. The Disruptors are going to be great in playing Minesweeper, though. Oh my goodness, that pylon is giving me shivers, by the way. Don't show that natural of the Protoss anymore, Wardy. I cannot deal with it.
It's just connecting everything, man. I'm gonna trigger you a little bit here, Roddy. 2 Robos, 2 Forges. Oh, nice Widow Mines to start this little engagement off as well. I mean, you have to have a follow-up to the mines, but at least they are going to be low when units show up. We do see some probes dying on the other side of the map as well. We also have the medevac with more Widow Mines about to show up on the third base, so both sides taking some damage this time. TeebuL is going to get the cleanup on the medevac, so that's a nice shutdown on a little bit of the harass.
This is such a fun first game. We're 12 minutes in, it's all over the place. XY is about to find that gold, Wardy. And sure, it was taken on the wrong side, but it obviously means that these probes are still in a bit of a pickle. And the Marauders can shoot across these gold minerals as more Zealots run into the natural good split off there as well. I'm really impressed by TeebuL, man. He's playing a very solid game. Is that going to be enough to take the W here in game 1? That I don't know. More work is falling on both sides as these armies were flirting with each other in the center of the map. Seems that XY has decided to pick up. Definitely lost a decent amount of bio by the looks of it. Does TeebuL have an army where he can now keep on pushing? It really comes down to the storms and the Disruptors, and I kind of want to say we need an observer here, right?
Oh! That was a massive Disruptor shot to start us off. TeebuL with all the eco damage done as well. I mean, XY's army as it stands might be okay, but he's only on 25 SCVs. He's not going to be well set up for the rest of this game or for the follow-up here, so that part is going to be a problem. And, well, I think XY is right in kind of moving across the map and saying, I got to do something now before this eco disadvantage really starts to show itself in the armies.
He's got the bigger army since Wardy. We don't have any bosses anymore. We are in charge right now. Let's go ahead and play the guessing game real quick. How many workers do you think have died in total in this game? Both sides. Quickly.
50 and 50.
I think close to 100 is probably correct, because we're going to take a look at that as the Colossus dies and that pylon, Wardy, that I was worried about does get taken out, and it means literally everything is unpowered. This is a terrifying Terran army. There are a couple of DTs in the main base, but the Raven is still in the mix as well. What's the Protoss accomplishing on the other side of the map? Running into a lot of Widow Mines. More workers are falling. Like, we are going to actually almost lose 200 workers in this game. This is ridiculous as the missile turret gets a couple of shots off. As +2 gets denied. Okay, well, we may have lost the Forges, but that's obviously a big denial. I see 4 medevacs there, Wardy, that have kind of been working overtime already.
Yeah, those medevacs have been pretty busy, and this army is not getting healed up, so that's going to be a big issue if these two armies do clash, of course, because, yeah, that would actually be a major part of whether or not you can actually take the larger fight eventually. What tech units do we have? We have 1 Disruptor, 1 Colossus, 1 Archon. The 4 Mortals are actually pretty good at this point, right? Because they're just so tanky against this Bioforce. In this sort of situation, I love that. So, yeah, as we enter this base trade, I think I still prefer this a little bit for TeebuL, but it isn't going to be easy.
You know what I'm gonna almost suggest? This is crazy, but I would almost say don't use your Colossus at all. Put your Colossus somewhere AFK in a corner or near the last few probes that you still have, because that Colossus is just never gonna survive against the Vikings for longer than 10 seconds. What could happen is if you don't reveal this Colossus, he leaves it behind there for a split second. Don't know if that was a purpose or not, but it could be awesome if you can force the Terran to land the Vikings. You land the Nova, you land the Storm, or the Immortals do their thing, and then maybe the Colossus can have a big impact later if it truly comes down to the final few units. What an absolutely insane way as this Colossus now a bit of trouble. Double Widowmine shot is good, but not good enough to kill this Colossus. This is our first game of the day. We've got 10 best of 3s today.
Yeah, 10 best of 3s, and this one's setting the tone for the rest. Obviously, what TeebuL can do and what he is doing is setting up this base in the bottom corner, and you've got to love that. Take the batteries. He's got probes to mine with. That's one thing XY does not have. He's got 2 SCVs on the map, a couple of mules, sure, but that still doesn't quite make up for the 20 probes that TeebuL has. You got to like where TeebuL is at still, I think.
Well, Marty, double orbital, 20 probes. I'll take double orbital.
You think? Yeah. Okay. Triple orbital, actually.
I'm
Wow.
a little, but okay, it's triple orbital, mate. I think the Terran.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not even joking at this point. Obviously, XY is gonna have to rebuild a couple of depots, and it will take a little while before he gets things going. Good job there by TeebuL, warping in a single stalker to maybe at least put some damage on this orbital. XY throws down the scan. He knows about the big base in the bottom right side, but can he walk into the high ground? He's got an interference matrix. He goes for the disruptive feedback. We need some feedbacks here. There's a couple of EMPs land. Still plenty of storms remaining though, and that first storm on the Vikings is absolutely perfect.
It really is. The Vikings taking a lot of damage. Zelts in the front. That super battery putting in work. That was always going to be the benefit of this position here for TeebuL. This Wood Mine does get taken down, but there's other Wood Mines blowing up. A couple DTs getting caught in this scan. We will storm one more time to take down Medivacs, and it looks like TeebuL is going to have what he needs to chase down XY and to get the GG.
Wow, what a ridiculous first game of the day. TeebuL takes the 1-0 lead in his opening best of 3 of this new Swiss format that we've got. Can he go all the way and send himself into sort of the second round where he will go up against another winner? Or will XY make a comeback? I think it's safe to say with how close this game was that it's truly impossible to call. I almost think that XY obviously got a bit impatient towards the end. Like, I understand the fear. You see an army, you see a base, and you're like, whoa, that's Protoss. But obviously the Protoss needs to rebuild a whole bunch of stuff as well. There are many other things that you can do rather than running into the overcharged battery, because those 4 Immortals that you highlighted correctly a while ago, those Immortals next to an overcharged battery, I mean, they slap, baby. And sure, he landed some EMPs, and he even dropped an interference matrix on a High Templar, but that was still too much Protoss to run into when it's protected by all those batteries.
Yeah, I think he just saw so much that was scary. He saw like the full base, he saw potential production still, and he was like, "Oh man, you're set up. I gotta go before it becomes too big a thing." But in this scenario, he might have been okay with triple orbital. Get some build up yourself. I think he could have taken it more carefully, get the snipe on a Colossus, and just be slower in general, more tactical instead of just fully sending it straight away. Like the Ghost ran in, not just to like try and land EMPs. Like they were so like in the middle of the army. It was like, well, did they need to be that deep? Probably not, really.
And don't forget that XY was quite Widowmine heavy too, right? Still towards the end. And obviously Widowmines are very good defensive units, and they are amazing if the Protoss attacks into you, but they're not the best unit to run into the Protoss army. On top of that, you have to run up a ramp, so your army is kind of just inclined to always clump up a little bit more, and that's where the Storms connected with Medivacs, Vikings, a Raven, and Bio units underneath at the same time. So XY had a good army, but it was not a great army to engage on top of a ramp into batteries. Yeah, I honestly think that if you look back at that, and then you just kind of float that one orbital back to your side of the map, you're like, yeah, actually, I want to see you take another base. You can have one base, but with the triple orbital, I have more than a one base economy as well. And I have an army that's strong defensively, not a great offensive army, but obviously the Vikings as well, so Viking heavy against single Colossus. Yeah, I don't think XY needed to do that, but I also completely understand that he felt, all right, I'm supply blocked, I see a lot of probes, I'm just going to go for it, let's see if I can get it done.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's just one of those tough in the decision moments, right? And we have all the information. XY has very little information comparatively. Yeah, man, what a way to set the tone for the series. Like you said, we didn't know what to expect. You know, honestly, I could have seen this being like a couple quick 5-minute games. XY like proxies something, TeebuL panics and like messes up. I mean, this could have been a 5-minute game on the other side. The TT showing up could have ended the game too, and obviously we got something pretty spectacular out of it instead. So just really sets us up for a good few weeks of StarCraft. I know, like you say, we're going to probably say it a lot, but I think we're just excited that the ESL Masters is back and in full force, so I'm very excited. And Game 2, pretty much ready to go, by the way, so we'll be a few moments before hopping into that.
Yeah, when we had the old format, I was always a bit of a fan of round robin, so I'm not suddenly going to backpedal and there's like, oh, big groups, it was terrible, but it's just that we did it for 7, 8 seasons in a row, and at one point we all kind of knew. And my hopes and dreams initially were like, all right, if new players qualify for the DreamHack Masters, instead of having just 2 series like they would have in the GSL group format, when you have formats, I was like, they have 7 series to play, that's going to be awesome, but it just didn't really seem to help some of these younger kids a whole lot, where, you know, 5 out of the 7 games were just almost impossible on paper. And I think with this format, it should always be a bit more competitive. It should be more even, and they will still be able to play a whole bunch of series, right? Like at the bare minimum, you're going to play 3, which is obviously better than 2, and they are going to be more doable than your random round robin match against some of the best players in the world. I love it. I'm excited, and after the first game, I'm even more excited because that was ridiculous. And kudos to XY, because obviously we could only look at kind of one side at the time, and we were focused on the DTs because we expected the DTs to do a tremendous amount of damage. But somehow, with a Hellion and a Liberator, and I guess a Reaper or something, that man did more damage than 2 DTs did, and he had 0 detection.
It was actually, I actually had to like, do a double take because I was like, you know, I saw the worker kill count going up on the side and I didn't really notice what it was. I was just like, yeah, he's killing loads of SCVs, right? I was like, wait, those are probes. I was like, wait, there's probes dying? Like, how did he get like 15 probes while the DTs were free in the main and the natural? Yeah, it was absolutely just ridiculous as we do dive into game number 2. And we're going to start off this time around in the bottom right-hand corner of Grezvan with our Red Terran, who is down a map and looking to try and bounce back. From Invictus Gaming, it's XY.
And then, of course, means that in the top left side, we are looking at the main base of one of the UK lads. We can absolutely still call him that. Awesome first game, beautiful transitions. Love that first attack on the triangle base as well. This is TeebuL. Not an Epic Land champion, though, is he?
No. He got very close one time. I don't think he's won it, though. He had finals a couple times. If Epic Land ever happens again, mate, they just shut down the venue. It's terrible.
What?
Yeah.
No more Epic Lands?
Well, no, Epic Land wants to go on, but the venue it was in just got shut down.
Yeah.
So they're trying to move it. I know, it's crazy.
Unbelievable.
You know what it is?
Comes over, wins it one time, and you guys call it quits? Jeez Louise.
I was going to say, I booked my ticket for the first time in 5 years, and they're like, no, can't have you showing up, can we? Yeah.
Aww.
But no, he's always been like, it was kind of surprising when he showed up the first time because didn't really know who he was, and then he just was really good at StarCraft, you know, and that was always the magic of those kind of local events, right, where you know, there was just players who were in like Grandmaster League that didn't play in a lot of tournaments and they were just low-key good, and then they show up and it's like, oh, these guys are actually really good, huh?
Yeah, it's awesome. I really love it. It's some of the old romance of StarCraft 2, right? Where you come into a tournament and you don't necessarily know what players are capable of. I've always enjoyed watching the Epic Land tourneys. For the people who don't know, that's basically a UK DreamHack. It's obviously a little bit smaller, and the StarCraft tournament is not so much for like the international scene, but more for the UK scene. The boys have always had a great time, and Risky has won it more than Gabe has won the European Pro Tour Weekly, so that says enough.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing as this opening, by the way. Reactor first from XY is going to go straight into Marines, which is nice. He'll have a solid Marine count against this Proxy Stargate, super nearby the main, so this Oracle's going to hit quickly, as we do have a Zealot coming across the map too. Both games, TeebuL are really opening quite aggressively, really wanting to bring the fight to XY and set the pace himself rather than letting XY kind of decide what's going to happen.
Yep, he would probably not mind seeing that Hellion first again out of a factory. That seems like a pretty good scenario for the Proxy Stargate player, but we'll keep an eye on that as XY has it positioned where he could even do the swapperoo, right? We can even stop building Marines and then start building a whole bunch of Hellions very quickly. This honestly would all be very good for TeebuL. The Zealot, you don't want to lose the Zealot because you want to keep as many Marines in the natural as possible. TeebuL doesn't need to take the fight here. All that TeebuL wants to do is force XY to rally every single Marine that he's producing to the low ground. Oh my goodness, he's gonna do the swapperoo, and yeah, Hellions are great enough, but that's not gonna help you against this first Oracle that's about to fly into the main base. This is really going to hurt.
This is going to suck. To put it simply, this Oracle flies in. There is nothing in the main base at all. So this is, of course, arriving super quickly. There's no more anti-air being built either. So this low cannon Marine 6 is enough to take down an Oracle, but it definitely ain't enough to take down 2 if we get to a second one. And if you team this Oracle up with the low ground units, that would be great. I feel like I want him to stop getting SCVs, just get out and wait for Oracle 2. You're going to be so powerful.
Yep, he took a lot of damage and obviously lost all of his energy there. At the same time, the Zealot and the Adept did absolutely nothing. Well, I kind of felt there was definitely a moment for them to try to accomplish something, even if that Zealot already took a lot of damage earlier. I thought that was the whole plan, right? The 1-2 wombo combo. Oracle in the main base, that's going to get a lot of damage done unless all the Marines go there to defend against the Oracle. Well, then your Adapting your Zealot is going to get a lot of damage done. I want to say for back-to-back games, a minor missed opportunity for TeebuL to get much further ahead than what he is, if he is even ahead in the first place.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Even if the Adept and the Zealot just click into the natural and just get left to do whatever they can do, they probably get a few SCVs at least, right? So, or you force the SCVs away, whatever is a good outcome, really. As this Oracle, the only one is actually going to get locked onto a Cyclone, and now that Oracle is going to be dead.
Yeah, no, I mean, TeebuL's just not ahead at all now, even losing the Oracle. That's a shame. Missed opportunity there. Maybe he just thought it was all a little bit too good to be true, and there was a trap somewhere, and that's why he was afraid to do a certain thing. As we now have one Phoenix being produced, and that Phoenix should always be able to come out before this pylon will die. And that's actually pretty sweet. If we take a look at the production tab of XY, and we can see that he's building a Raven. Just having a single Phoenix to prevent that thing from idling in between your main base or your natural and the top left side of TeebuL's main. I think it would be nice to get a single Phoenix out.
Yeah, I love it. And Phoenix obviously will just rescout this main as well, just double check what's going on. And you can see the full setup, the barracks timing too. Just be careful. Cyclone locks on, shouldn't be able to get if the Phoenix continues in a straight line. High ground vision is good too. Whatever you can do to break the lock on, basically. And yeah, all you want is that Phoenix to, like you say, ping away at that Raven, stop it from just sitting there. How often do we see that Raven being annoying? And now we're going to use it also for some high ground vision to blink up in the main, where to be okay, the few Marines getting repositioned, so the Stalkers shouldn't be able to do too much. But they can, if they want to, blink in and then just wait a little while until Blink's off cooldown, and then they should still get a free trade.
Okay, Cyclone gets another lock on. Previous time he didn't kill it. This time around he will kill it. And that's obviously the only high ground vision that TeebuL was working with. I have to admit, I don't truly understand why we just sit there at the bottom of the main. Like, either we go in or we run back, right? Like, there's no point in just standing there for as long as TeebuL did. And I think the first time there was a little opportunity with only a single tank out. That tank obviously being positioned in the natural. I thought that, you know, if you want to get something done, just be annoying, shave off a couple of Marines. That was probably the moment. At this point, this army of XY is a little too big. I'm definitely concerned for TeebuL here in Game 2. It just does not feel like things have quite lined up for him. He is going to get charged at least, Wardy, but look at the army supply. It's 14 against 37.
Yeah, I mean, not really much else to say to that. It's a massive army from XY. This is just TeebuL not doing enough with his damage early. You know, the Oracle initially, it was okay, it was good, but, you know, to then lose the Oracle and the Stalkers to not have done anything, and it's just all added up to not being enough. It was too much of a commitment, and now XY is looking to punish TeebuL big time as he gets straight across the map, and obviously no ramp into the natural. It should be a pretty easy siege up and deal a lot of damage. It's not even a battery in the natural that's finished just yet. It's building, but not ready yet. Raven taking a few pings, but the tanks are in position, and honestly, that's all that really matters.
Yeah, obviously Zealots can be good against tanks, but this is 3 tanks very well protected by a whole bunch of Marines, and even if these Marines don't have any of their feisty upgrades, can also drop an auto turret or 2, right? I do think TeebuL is going to try to engage with a couple of Zealots from the bottom, but I just don't ever see this Protoss army being good enough. The only way TeebuL wins the fight is if the tanks do a whole lot of friendly fire.
Well, they are going to try and do something, but they're target firing the Stalkers, the Zealots are getting cleaned up by the Marines, and even if it's just one tank remaining, the bio units that are still here are about to kick into Stim Combat +1. Gateways are being depowered, the Super Battery doesn't have anything to really heal, and obviously the tank just pushes further up, and XY sits here up almost double the supply, and absolutely looking as though he is just about ready to close this out.
I love that recall, by the way. We're going to go ahead and try to saturate the third base, and take a look at the army supply. It's 6 against 48 at the moment, guys. A Stalker and a Dream. The few little Stalkers that could, mate. We're going to try to rebuild all the gateways as well, but Oh, so yeah, this game is ultra over. XY just played very clean. Should have been in trouble in the early game. The Zealot and the Adept in the natural and the Oracle in the main base, that should have really been a big problem with the build that he went for. And I'm sure that TeebuL is kicking himself a little bit for how all of that played out. I really just think, Waddy, that he was worried about something being there that wasn't there, right? That's my only explanation for the way that TeebuL played it out.
Yep, absolutely, and that is going to be GGXY closing it out, and that is going to give us a tied-up series to be able to start our tournament, man. I mean, we won one, we're going to Game 3 already. The Asian region already showing up. 2 players from previously different regions are showing us just how fun and competitive these games can be. So, yeah, we can look forward to Game 3, man. 2 very different games, of course, as TeebuL kind of bringing the same idea of aggression, not quite working, but in Game 1 he was able to draw it back in. Game 2 he just did not have enough, and just a game of missed opportunity to even think, like you say, blinking with the Stalkers, not doing that. There's also a missed opportunity to at least just get a couple of kills and start making up for the Oracle not having done enough. So, yeah, a little bit of a shame, but we'll see what he can do, turn it around maybe in Game 3, maybe shake out some of those nerves or so, because we know he's capable of making some of the plays he's currently missing out on.
Yeah, and even if he would have gone for that blink into the main base, maybe he doesn't get a whole lot, but what he will get is time. And time is obviously what he needed, right? For those extra gates to finish up, to actually properly send over the probes to the third base, because we saw a bit of a missed rally as well. He had 26 workers in the natural. That was obviously not on purpose. It's just a bit of an unfortunate game, but hey, then again, that first game could have very well easily gone the other way, so I think it only makes sense that we're all tied up after 2. And our final game is going to be played on altitude by the looks of it, so could be a completely different TeebuL this time around, right? Maybe it's going to be a much more macro-oriented Protoss, because I don't know TeebuL as someone that I think of as overly aggressive, and he showed us on Royal Blood that he's very comfortable in making difficult transitions. That first transition into splash damage the first time is hard, and then that second transition into the double robo, the robo bay, and all the forges, that's a difficult one as well. And TeebuL honestly all did that at kind of the correct moment, so we could see a much more defensive TeebuL here in Game 3 and just kind of try to rely on some solid macro.
I'm all for it, man. I mean, altitude is not a map you expect XY to be able to find a lot of his aggressive pushes, and if that's what TeebuL's been scared of and trying to like force XY off of, no need for it here. Just play your macro game, and I think TeebuL could be the better player in a macro game too. It's just not what I really see from XY as being his strength. His strength to me is, oh, I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to come in with a weird build, something you've not seen before. So, yeah, I'd like to see TeebuL, like you say, a bit more macro-oriented, just come in just very standard and just get himself into a good setup, because I really think he can control the game if he does that.
One thing that truly stands out for me, though, for XY is his crisis management in both of these games, where in Game 1 he was supposed to fall completely apart against DTs. Like, I casted a very similar scenario yesterday, and you know what happened? The Terran just left. The moment it saw the Shimmer, it just left. Now, obviously, the Terran didn't have a Liberator and whatnot, but it was still very similar. And the fact that XY handled that as well as he did while still finding a lot of damage even on the other side of the map is impressive. And here in Game 2 was also kind of easy to just panic and be worried about that Zealot and the Adept and be worried about the Oracle, but he's kind of stayed very calm, cool, composed, collected, and he's like, no, send a couple of Marines over, it's gonna be okay, temporarily pull the SUVs back, only lost 3. Completely out of position against the quickest possible Oracle since it was proxied of a very early Stargate. I don't even understand how he only lost 3 SUVs there.
No, I still don't. Like, it's kind of baffling how that first game all started out. And, yeah, I honestly, like, I want to go back and look at the replay, because I don't know how anything went down in that first game. Like, I was so convinced and, like, following the DTs and everything, and then the next thing I know, I'm like, man, there's just so many probes dead, and, like, none of that damage was SCVs. Like, I know it sounds ridiculous, but, like, it was kind of baffling to watch, honestly. So, yeah, crazy stuff. Countdown starts up here for game number 3. As you mentioned, Roddy, we are going to altitude here for this upcoming map. So it's a big one. It should be a fun one. I really expect these guys to give us a bit of a bang in this final game of our first series of the day.
Yeah, we obviously had the Widow Mines as well on Royal Blood, so it was like a combination of the Widow Mines, the random Hellion, then the Liberator, but somehow that dealing more damage than 2 Invisible Boys, one in the main, one in the natural, when we have no eBay, no Raven, no scans. Still odd, like not the way that we expect things to play out. Let's see who's going to win our opening best of 3 of this edition of the ESL Pro Tour Asia. New group format, Swiss format. Bottom left side, we are looking at the main base of the man that is representing Invictus Gaming. He does that in the WTL as well. This is XY.
Taking on our blue Protoss in the top right, repping Berserker Esports. It is TeebuL. Also a WTL team, which is awesome.
Yep. He has not played for them yet, right?
I don't think so, no. I mean, they have a pretty strong roster, right? Like, you know,
Battle
like
Booty and Spots.
yeah, that's a fun roster, actually. It's the kind of team that you really feel can, like, do a lot, and obviously these are some players we're going to be seeing later today, even. Spats takes on, I think it's Cyril, actually, in the EU group.
Yeah.
So that's going to be fun, I'm sure. But, yeah, Berserker, they just have a fun roster, I'd call it, because it's a lot of up-and-coming players who definitely can make a splash in any given match, so... Yeah, cool to see TeebuL joining them as well and repping them here in the Asian region. And there's the engineering bay block here for XY to get a bit of his own kind of say as to how this game starts up.
Yep, and it seems that TeebuL does not want to deal with this at all. He is not just going to expand elsewhere, so he's going to pull 4 probes and could still get the Nexus down here immediately. We'll get Cybercore first. Now you have to make sure that it doesn't rebuild an eBay, right? Or there's even a supply board. That is exactly what is going to happen. Like, I am not a fan of Nexus before core, but I kind of feel that if you already got eBay blocked once and then you can get it down, maybe you should have just planted down that Nexus, right? Because now you're losing a whole lot more mining time with these 4 probes, just not doing what they are supposed to be doing.
Yep, I would have taken exactly what you said. Take the Nexus just when you can get it and not let that happen, because that was a little bit silly. And just going to be causing TeebuL to be a bit further behind than he maybe needed to be, because obviously catching the fact that this engineering bay went down so quickly the first time is meant to be great for you. It allows you to pull the probes, like you say, and just get the kill and the cancel. And then you just don't really capitalize off of that at all. Just a bit of a shame, really.
Yep. Forcing your opponent to expand elsewhere is obviously nice for a turn, especially here, because the third base is a bit further away than it would be on some other maps. And then I think 3 racks is always intimidating to go up against if Protoss players are forced to expand elsewhere, or just multiple Hellions, Hellion Reaper, all of that stuff. Normally it's easier if you just have to worry about the main and natural, but if you now have to worry about the main and the third base, it just becomes a whole lot harder to deal with these very quick units early on. And that is indeed the opening here that XY is going to go for. But since this is altitude, and in the end he did not force TeebuL to expand elsewhere, because TeebuL was on top of it so quickly, I'd be surprised if he makes more than 2 Hellions. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I imagine this has to be like 2 Hellions into like Widow Mines and just get like a 4 Widow Mine drop going. It's hard to, like you say, imagine that he can do much with 4 Hellions. It's such a gamble if he tries to do anything with more than 2 Hellions, I think. 2 Hellions is fine. They can poke at the front, take some attention, force a unit on the natural, maybe giving the Widow Mines a better shot. So yeah, I like this, and I like the Phoenix. Obviously, the Phoenix provides a really good defense early on, typically helping to minimize the sort of damage that can be done on the back of these, early harassing units.
Yeah, no, I like this call by XY. I think it makes a lot of sense. Obviously, TeebuL still needs to respect 2 Hellions, because it wouldn't be the first time that we see 2 Hellions do a whole lot more than they are supposed to. We have a Phoenix. He's going to lift the lower HP Hellion, and that means that a lot of probes right now are a bit clumped up. They are lined up. Good save in the end. Sure, we lose a little bit of mining time, but obviously that's a whole lot better than losing a bunch of probes against 2 Hellions.
Don't lose the 2 probes now. No. Yeah. A little bit of a shame. I was going to say the only thing I would have liked to see there was maybe the probes on the natural if they were going to pull to fight the Hellion. If they pulled a little sooner, the Hellion would have never got behind the mineral line. Maybe would have made it a bit easier, but all said and done, I mean, 2 probes still ain't too bad. Obviously, it's just sad because it was pretty avoidable at the end, but it is what it is. And now we've got that Widow Mine drop going to be the next stage of this.
Yeah, and that is actually going to hurt, because even though this is a great Phoenix map, right? Because normally we think like, if a map is large, it's great for Phoenix because they fly and they're freaking quick. And that's obviously a fact. But it also means that if Phoenixes are out of position, it takes a very long time, even for this fast unit, to make it home in time. Now, TeebuL did immediately realize something was not quite right. He's going to spot the medevac. He's still not going to be home in time, though. This is going to hurt Wardy. The question is just how many probes are we going to end up losing?
Yeah, we pull all of them away. We just about chased with one of those Widow Mine shots. Didn't think that was going to reach, but we got about 4 workers. We're going to reburrow and one more Widow Mine shot just to hit the Adept. No, maybe onto a probe or so. Phoenix going to try and get the cleanup, and that is now going to be the shutdown. I mean, pretty decently defended, all said and done at the end.
There are 2 Widow Mines, yeah, but this is a lot of damage, man. It's too much. Like, if the Phoenix were in a better spot, this is just too much. Look at this. The medevac is going to sit on top of the 2 Widow Mines that have been, as one Widow Mine is indeed hiding in the main base. What is, sorry, I missed that one because I was looking at the booby trap that XY was temporarily setting up, but now he's like, nah, never mind. If I can save my medevac, I'm just going to go ahead and save my medevac. I don't need to set up this trap. There's a good chance that these mines will connect anyway. And there we go. That's the first Widow Mine shot. There is an observer. I hope that TeebuL realizes there's another one. What about that mine in the main base? Waddy, it just got 6 kills. Oh.
Yep, that just sneaking back in, being sat in that corner, waiting for the opportunity for a few moments, and now going to get cleaned up. But even more damage on top of what you said before was just too much. So I have to expect now that XY going to feel pretty darn good. You know, TeebuL on not the fastest of third bases behind this either. He's going to try and scrape together a Robo Bay and attempt to go to Colossi. And just hope you can maybe get to that kind of somewhat stable Phoenix Colossus composition before, well, XY gets pushing.
Yeah, I almost think it would have been better to stay on 2 bases here, as crazy as that sounds. But I just don't believe that TeebuL can ever defend the natural and the third base at the same time. So it might actually be better to just try to stabilize on 2 bases for a little bit, and then eventually down the line go up to 3 bases. Raven is on a suicide mission, but before it goes down, it will still drop some other turrets and disrupt the Protoss economy even more. A couple of workers are falling, and obviously all of them are not mining. It's just a very painful game for TeebuL so far. If you can take a look at that income advantage, you can just really see how much of an impact all this harassment by XY has had.
Yep, that is a big dip multiple times over at this stage, and it just keeps adding up. That's the sort of thing you really don't want to have kind of coming your way, and yeah, TeebuL just in a tough spot. Going to try and do something with the Phoenix, but they get locked on too quickly. They're going to get chased away without too much issue. That's really not going to find anything there. Would have loved to just use all the energy perhaps on some SCVs just to try and retake a worker lead that you're meant to have because of mules. You kind of want to have a probe lead over the SCV count, but that's just not happening right now.
To be fair, I'm actually stunned by the fact that TeebuL still has a quote-unquote worker lead. It may not be a lot, because it's a 7-minute 30-second game where he didn't even have an ultra-quick third base, right? Obviously, he still took it somewhat early, despite all the damage he took, but he lost 19 probes in this game, and despite the fact that 19 probes have gone down and barely any SCVs have fallen, only 2, we are awfully close in workers, and the Protoss still has a tiny lead, which I'm a little bit surprised by.
Yep, absolutely. As we got XY. Just going to lag out here for a moment. We'll see if he gets to regain, or maybe we'll have to go for a quick resume. So we'll give this a few moments and hopefully get back to it in just a second. But yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, Roddy, this is a situation here where we are really in a place where TeebuL and XY, you know, TeebuL's definitely scraping something together, XY in a bit of a lead, but the fact it's a big map, do you worry that that means that XY can't capitalize as well as he might want to on this kind of lead that he has?
Yeah, there is a good chance because obviously he has just gone for a very defensive setup. We even have a whole bunch of turrets, despite the fact that the Phoenix count is not all that high that he truly has to worry about it, and I thought he would have more than enough units to deal with it. Yeah, there is a chance that this game definitely goes on for a little while longer with extended turbulence close to finishing up, a bunch of extra gateways, and as I said, TeebuL economically still in a sort of fine spot. Not the spot that Sweet Brothers dreams are made of, right? Where it's like, oh, 8 minutes in, we have 3 workers more than the Terran with 3 orbitals. That's not great for Protoss, but it is playable. Like, one great fight is really all it takes, and obviously that Raven did die after it dropped the other turret, so there's no interference matrix. Yeah. There is a chance for TeebuL. I feel like it should have been worse than what it actually is, but I'm sure that he's not loving this game.
Yeah. No, I'm absolutely convinced he's not loving it. I mean, you gotta hate the amount of damage you take, and the Terran gets their third base, so not long after you, it's fully, you know, set up and producing as well, so just a few reasons not to be super in love with it. As it looks as though we are gonna have XY fully kind of dropping here, which means we probably have to recover the replay, which just takes a few more moments, but we should be able to get that going sooner rather than later. So a couple moments here, we'll get back into it, and I'm just gonna have to get this regamed. Roddy gives us a couple moments, obviously, to just again reflect on this setup that TeebuL has, the 3 bases, trying to get up to gates and charge and extend thermal lance, and yeah, just basically just has a long way to go until he's really comfortable still in the overall game, though.
Yeah, I guess if we are going to rehost it, we can go ahead and take a look at the worker graph, because I have the feeling that maybe XY hit like a supply block or 2. Take a look. He has been supply blocked for 25 seconds in this game so far. I'm gonna take a look at the amount of workers. It's not a very steady line up, right? It kind of felt that XY built a couple SCVs, focused on dealing damage, went back to building SCVs, dealt some more damage, and because of that, his economy was maybe not as strong as what it could have been. Because yeah, his graph just looks a little bit random. He has not taken any real damage himself. He's only lost 2 SCVs in this 8-minute game. He should have been in a even better spot than he already is in, but I'm sure that he's probably quite feeling it, right? Maybe he just feels confident in his ability to control the late game army, and he will feel that as long as I've got a steady 3+ base economy, I've got all my production facilities up and running, I'm going to be fine here because I believe in the Terran army. And if that's his approach, he will still be fine, and he will still be loving where this game is heading.
Yeah, it'd be fun to see how the moves he makes to kind of shut down TeebuL. I'm interested to see how aggressive he gets, because he's about to hit all of his upgrades as well, right? So is he going to start dropping? Is he going to just go for a larger push? What is he going to do to stop TeebuL from getting set back up himself? I think there's a lot to be kind of seen in terms of how that plays out. So excited for that, as we're just waiting for our referee to start hosting up the replay again. Looks like it'll just take a moment or two. Obviously, again, we do have a fantastic feature built into StarCraft where you can recover a game from the replay and just pick up where we left off. So just takes a couple minutes to get it loaded. Once it's all loaded, it shouldn't be so bad. And we can just get back into it as though XY never disconnected.
Yeah. After the Hellions and the Widowmines, I'm sure that TeebuL was happy about the fact that XY had like a triple CC build here and a Raven, because if this is just a strong 2-base Marine tank follow-up, I think you're ultra dead as a Protoss, right? Taking that amount of economic damage, I do not believe that you can ever deal with 3 or 4 tanks and 20 Marines and 2 Marauders with Stim. If it's triple CC, you obviously always have a bit of a comeback mechanic as a Protoss, because it means it's gonna all take a little bit longer for the Terran to actually feel comfortable and make it to the other side of the map. On top of that, I kind of have to question the decision to go Raven here. I often joke that unless your name is Maru or Foxer, you're not allowed to build a Raven against Phoenix play. Now, lately, I gotta say more and more Terrans have impressed me by keeping their Raven alive and still being able to get a big Matrix off against a bunch of Phoenixes that fly around. But if we build a Raven to then send it into the main base, drop 2 turrets, and we don't follow this up with a big push at the same time, then I don't really understand why we build a Raven in the first place.
Yeah, no, the Raven is one of these units where it's meant to, like you're right, it's just been to fly into the main against Phoenix and then not be there with, big pushes and stuff. Yeah, it's a little bit crazy, as wondering why our referee is not inviting anyone to the lobby. Sorry, that's why I'm a bit distracted, but yeah, I feel like this game has some fun to it. Okay, again, I invite now. Perfect. But yes, we got ourselves this resume coming up. And XY in a position to try and close it out. Apparently his game just crashed. So that, that's the new one. I thought, sometimes, China connecting over to the NA server, for example, in this case, is sometimes a bit dodgy, but no, his game just crashed. I mean, that's a new one too.
That is scary. I play a racing game that does tend to crash sometimes often. And it's starting to crash more and more by the time they get ready to release the next one. But StarCraft 2 may have a couple flaws, but fortunately my game never seems to crash. I'm gonna knock that off immediately because you don't want to tempt the faith or the computer gods out there. But it seems like we are pretty much good to go to continue this, guys. Just a couple minutes. We obviously apologize about the inconvenience and the minor delay here. Apparently something went wrong, and we're gonna have to rehost this again. We should be good to go. Good news is we've got 9 more best of 3s after this. 1 hour for the first series. How are you feeling about spending 10 hours with Roddy on the very first day of the ESL Pro Tour, Roddy?
Couldn't have asked for it to be anyone else, man. I'll say the same to Zombie Group later this week, I'm sure, but
I know, you're gonna do me dirty.
Yeah, you couldn't have asked for anyone better, so. No, I mean, for day one, I feel like we have a good time, a fun day one as well, right? Because day one is the day where maybe there is going to be some mismatches, and not every match is going to be super serious because we expect a Serral to win out, and obviously that's not the case in this first game of the day. Obviously, it's very close. So yeah, that's obviously not the case in this first game, but definitely one of those situations, I feel, where we are just, super excited, ready to go, going to have a fun day. I don't know, man. I'm ready for it. I feel like it's going to be a lot of StarCraft, but yeah, we're good at doing lots of StarCraft,
6 out of 7 days, we've got the ESL Pro Tour to enjoy for these upcoming 3 weeks. And then that 7th day, there will still be the weeklies. There will still be WTL as well. Especially next Monday, what a big match in the WTL.
Did they move the WTL off of the weekends?
Oh, I don't know, but I think
Oh, is this just
they are
on Mondays?
playing on.
I see.
Yeah, I think there is a. As far as the last time I checked, at least, maybe
I'm
that's
out of
changed
touch.
again. But last
What?
time I checked,
Who did Basilisk play then? Tell me.
DKZ.
DKZ? Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. On the most glorious day of the year, buddy.
Oh, May
Yeah, that's right.
8th? Didn't need to think about that one, mate, did I?
No. I told you too many years in a row for you not to know at this point. All right, the nerds are ready. We are ready. Once more, we apologize about the minor delay, but we are good to go. We've got a game 3 where XY is off to a very good start. However, still altitude. It's still a large map. It's still going to be difficult for him to make it to the other side of the map. Hopefully, his game won't crash anymore. We are 7 minutes and 45 seconds in. And we are ready to continue. And TeebuL needs a pylon, Wardy. Tell him quickly.
Bro, you need a pylon. Yeah, okay. He didn't, well, he didn't cheat during this downtime, Roddy, that's for sure. Didn't check in on what he needed to do. Yeah, that's, he's actually not started still, so a little bit painful.
Yeah, that's painful. It's extra painful, right? Because then it does feel that you're a little bit out of your rhythm as a player. Because obviously, you know, these things happen. Disconnects happen. Mistakes happen. Now, losing that depth is actually a saving grace. As TeebuL now wipes the units. He's still not building a pylon. Okay, there we go. By the time that this pylon is done, I think he's going to have 7 pylons on the way. But yeah, that's obviously because of the disconnect, right? He's just a bit out of his rhythm, out of his comfort zone, and the focus is gone. And that's a big one.
Yeah, it's just especially unfortunate because it was as a lot of the gateways finished too, so you just don't get as big of a surge of units that you really wanted to. And we're at a point where XY is absolutely going to be setting up to attack at some point. Stim is actually still quite a ways off. He's got combat shield and +1 already, but not Stim. So that's actually kind of wild how late Stim is going to be here. If he had Stim, I feel like he'd be across the map knocking on the front door already. So maybe TeebuL actually getting a little bit fortunate that we're missing the most important upgrade of all for the Terran.
Yep. Bunch of Vikings already being produced by XY too. Let's take a look at the starport count. That's still at 1. No Ghost Academy. Last game I thought, or on Royal Blood I thought there was no Ghost Academy. There was one, but then XY also thought there was no Ghost Academy, so he planted one down too. He's like, never mind, I do have one. Well, yeah, this game just shaping up to be that macro game that we were alluding to in the beginning. Has that second Robo is now finishing up. Templar Archives as well. Hey, if there are no Ghosts, I'm a fan of Archons, mate. Like, I am not a believer in Archons in this matchup, but without a Ghost Academy, yeah, that unit becomes around 7 times better than it is when Ghosts are on the battlefield.
Yeah, the difference of an Archon versus Ghost and versus no Ghost is quite tremendous, to say the least, as we have a Zealot playing Chase the Cyclone at the moment, too. Not too exciting. The Cyclone, not something you really necessarily need to keep up, as I do not want TeebuL to take a fight. Move out, maybe threaten in some way, weird way, but there's no world here where he wants to be taking a fight. He is heavily down in supply. He's not had a good opening in this game. He wants to sit back. He wants to be the defender, take a 4th base, get set up defensively. I can appreciate trying to pressure a bit on the map. Just don't get yourself caught off guard. You're playing a dangerous game right now.
Yeah, exactly. If we just want to stand there to maybe drop some force fields, fire a Nova forward and disengage, I love it. If we're going to try to fight, I really don't love it because this is a tiny old Protoss army, Waddy. If the plan is to just pull XY back and buy some extra time for ourselves, I think it's okay. XY, however, is not returning home yet. I'm keeping an eye on the minimap. He's even pulled all the boys. Now, the boys are still making their way to the other side of the map while the army is returning home. So this move up by TeebuL is turning into 300 IQ. We need a recall right here. Right now, the boys are like, what should we do? Should we still fight? No. You guys come back to... I mean, if TeebuL just gets a bunch of Archons right now, this is the first time ever I'm asking for like 4 Archons. The SCVs have turned around again, Roddy. They want to battle.
They're here too soon, though, Roddy. They run straight into the army, a few of them going down. Obviously, that's a sign for TeebuL that this army's still about to fight. Why are we out over here? Disrupt a shot, sure, maybe, but get back home, sit by a battery, be as safe as possible. The Vikings are going to have a field day here going towards these Colossi. Disrupt a shot down the ramp. Nearly gets a bigger shot than what it was. We do have just a little bit of back and forth. Force fields buying you some time at the moment.
Mate, get some Archons as he wipes in 7 Zealots on the left side. There is a battery there. Could have gone for the overcharge. TeebuL goes to the low ground. Tanks are going to siege up. Can the Novas connect? No. Mate, 1,400 minerals, 1,400 gas. TeebuL with a couple of Archons. You would have taken a tremendous fight there. Still in it, still has 4 bases, can even saturate these or send these probes to the top left side. It's gonna wipe in a couple Zealots, gonna wipe in a couple Stalkers. I mean, this is, oh, why no Archons, bud? If there was ever a moment to build Archons against Terran, this is definitely the moment when it's Marauder, Tank, Viking. There is no better scenario for Archons.
This would have been it, man, unless he was just feeling like he didn't have time to merge the High Templar in, I don't know. Man, there was also so many disruptor shots that felt like they were a moment away from being great, and then they just stopped short, they stopped moving. TeebuL pulling back, he's going to need the disruptors to deliver here. He's also got to go down this ramp with tank fire on him. It's going to be extremely tough. You can see a disruptor already getting blasted down. He panics and gets just a single Marauder now. Pushed into a corner, essentially, in his own base. TeebuL just has so little way to break out. He's got Zealots warping on the far left. I wouldn't mind those ending up being a flank rather than a potential counterattack, which I'm not sure what he's going to do, but I mean, he's got to do something. Another disruptor just going down. These Marauders controlling the game completely.
Such a shame there for TeebuL that Nova did not go off, because it was still maybe doable, but now another high-tech Robo unit gets picked off. We do have a couple force shields go down. Few Zealots coming in as the tanks deal a little bit of friendly fire. The tanks deal more friendly fire. Like, if TeebuL would spend all of his money, Waddy, and cleans this up, don't forget he has that top left side, right? There would still be a chance for him for sure, as he's working on the +2. Now, losing the natural 2 is obviously painful. It has to happen now or never for TeebuL. XY has a pretty big army supply late. The Zealots and Stalkers are trying to do whatever they can, but the micro is good on the side of Chinese Terran.
Yeah, XY's just got a little bit too much as he pushes up into this main base. The final fight is pretty much going to happen. The Liberators will really seal the deal. That's just a little bit too much to have to deal with right now as TeebuL gets pushed further back, trying to morph in an Archon, but too little, too late, Roddy. And XY is going to win the first series of this season of the ESL Masters Asia.